Hey, Disco Citizens! I am Julia Marchese.
And I am Teri Gamble. Welcome.
Welcome to Horror X, which is a collaboration between the George A. Romero Foundation and our podcast, Horror Movie Survival Guide.
Yes, Horror X explores the femmes who help make fright films fantastic-orical and palavers with them about their experiences in film and horror.
And today's guests are two of the founding members and write for What Sleeps Beneath, an online magazine that explores the horror genre as one of the most important cultural vehicles of our time.
Oh my gosh. Welcome to the stage, Destiny King and Theresa Baughman.
Yay! Hello.
Oh my gosh,
so excited to see you.
We're so excited to be here.
Yes.
This is amazing.
Absolutely.
Yay!
Thank you so much for inviting us on.
Well, thank you. We are happy to have you, and we are excited to talk to you about your horror roots and how you got to be the mavens that you are today.
Yes. So, we got to ask straight from the beginning, where did it begin? Where did you fall in love with horror?
Oh, you go first.
I go first.
Destiny,
Oh my gosh.
I know you're more nervous, so you have to go first.
Yeah.
Get it out of the way.
Get it over with,
Oh geez. Okay, so the first I think horror movie, and is also my favorite horror movie, would be Jaws. Like, I'd been growing up going to the beach every year, and I feel like that was the first movie that really got me, and like just the possibility of animal attacks, all that stuff. Like, I love true crime, I love just everything, so that was really like the hook, line, and sinker for me. Like, it was just like, what could be lurking in here?
So are you afraid to go swimming in the ocean because of Jaws?
No, I still go. It's funny. I'll tell people, like, one of my dreams, well, not dreams, but to just get like a little shark bite, like a scar, and have this story forever. Yeah, just a little nibble. Like, I even have. Like,
sounds like you, Julia. I'm sorry. Julia's like, yep.
Just a little nibble. Just a little minor encounter. I know it sounds crazy, but yeah, I love sharks. I mean, they're my favorite animal. But to tie that in with horror.
So have you done like swimming with sharks or anything like that? Because there's like a lot of opportunities to do that.
I wish. Maybe someday.
Oh my God.
So are sharks your favorite animal because of Jaws, or are they just coincidence?
Just a coincidence, because I think I've loved them honestly since like first grade. I feel like I have all these old books from when I was a kid, and then seeing Jaws, was like,
look, you're learning something new.
Yes.
About your best. Okay, so
Now, well,
the things that scare you the most.
Now I have a confession to make, which is terrible. I've never seen Jaws the whole way through in one sitting.
Oh my God,
every time it comes on, I just like fall asleep. So I've pieced together all the scenes. Like, I've seen the whole movie just in like literally like 30.
Okay, so we are bringing out revelations at the top of show today. This is amazing. We all don't know this about each other.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wow. We're going to sit down and watch the whole thing.
Like, you're gonna have to like keep me awake.
Yes.
Well, now you know you have to watch together.
Yeah.
There's some people go like to a screening.
In a pool watching it.
Okay, so that if I fall asleep around.
Yeah.
No.
Destiny, take Theresa to a screening like somewhere this summer. Do you know what I mean? They've been rescreening it everywhere, please. So she's in a theater and can like enjoy it, with a group of people who are terrified, and maybe hold her hand and picture and make sure she stays awake.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, the exciting thing is that you get to watch it for the first time. That's the exciting.
Yeah,
that is the exciting
that is
part.
true. Yeah.
So what about you, Theresa? What was your horror origin?
Well, growing up, my dad and I would watch a lot of Sci-Fi Channel. And there's a lot of like sci-fi horror adjacent kind of stuff. So I loved that ever since I was like really, really little. I remember the first horror movie that I saw way too young that like actually really scared me was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
I was like 5 or 6, like
Too young.
way too young. And a lot of it kind of went over my head, because you're like a little kid.
Yeah.
But I will never forget the bathtub scene, and burned into my skull. And also the scene where she's like dragged up the wall.
Yeah.
And I just so incredibly vividly was like horrified and scared for sure, but also like real fascinated with how much blood you know, I was like, what's that?
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street is my very, very favorite, and
I love
Tina's
it.
death up the wall is my favorite death in horror cinema. That,
I
you
think
know,
it's
they
mine too.
built a whole rotating room for that scene. That's incredible.
It's incredible. And just like, yeah, just the physics of it, I think kind of like put me in awe, and the premise of it is terrifying, obviously. And yeah, so
It is a really good one.
it's a really good one. And
So you've seen that whole movie. I'm just
Teri.
I'm sorry. I just think it's so cute. I love it. I love it. That's like, anyway, I get it. We understand that dynamic.
Well,
So
yeah,
this
I'm famously the weakest link of our trio
No.
because I have not, like, you name a movie of any genre, but you haven't seen it. So
That's
Yeah.
okay, because you're never going to be able to watch them all. So don't feel ashamed of the ones you haven't seen, because then you get to see them, and then everybody wins. So these are the first movies that you saw that you remember being remarkable to you as horror. But what do you think are the ones that have scared you the most?
Oh. Well, you were afraid of Jaws, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if that one has scared me the most. Like, are you talking about when we were younger, or like of all
Now.
scared us the most?
We need something that scares us now too. So we're always looking for recommendations, but also we want to know what freaking takes you out. You know, like what, like if you put on, you're like, or you had to pause a lot, because that's me usually. I'm like, I had to pause that one 10 times, Julia. I couldn't get through it. Like,
I know we have
going.
Yeah, I know we have kind of like opposite tastes sometimes, because
Yeah.
I can't do a lot of like true crime stuff. Like it's just, I don't know. I don't even try to watch it anymore, because it takes me so far into the world, and I like can't come back out of it, kind of thing. But I mean, I saw The Exorcist when I was like 13, and that was a bad idea. I mean, that, like, I couldn't sleep for like 3 days. That really scared me.
Really?
Wow.
Were you worried you were going to get possessed, or what was your fear?
I think that she was just scary, and like the way, it wasn't that she was actually possessed. It was what happened to her body because of her possession.
Yeah.
That really freaked me out. Yeah.
I'm still trying to think of one, but I feel like what scares me the most now is any kind of like body horror or like extreme gore, where like people's fingernails are getting ripped off, or like it's just a really realistic, like just any kind of removing of limbs or things like that. Like movies like that, I actually cannot watch anymore. And that's kind of crazy, because I do love true crime, but I feel like a lot of the newer true crime movies, it's in quick flashes, and like I can watch that, but if you stop and actually like go into a torture scene,
you could linger on it.
You don't want the luxuriation.
But even if you know it's a makeup artist behind the scenes who's creating this effect, like, you know that, I think there's a difference in the brain between true crime and narrative. But the gore is the same, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's interesting, because that's kind of how I feel about true crime.
Yeah.
So I can listen to true crime shows, but I can't really watch it, and I think it's because of like the gore of it.
Yeah.
Even though you know it's the exact same kind of makeup effects that they're being done if you're watching an actual film, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Mine's war. I can't do war gore, like medical gore and war gore I can't do, but horror gore is fine. So there's some sort of break in my brain, and I go, nope. Even though I'm like, it's the same effects. I know it is. I love watching it in horror effects, but in war, I'm like, nope, don't want to see it.
Well, just knowing that, that it happened, or that it happens. It's so hard. I get it. I'm not a big true crime. It scares me too. I think the real thing, you know, give me some goofy stuff. Give me like the 1970s silly blood. Give me orange blood. You want orange blood, magenta blood. Like, give me that. Like, give me that, so I know, like, oh, it's like they're in a weird, you know, Argento kind of a vibe. And no Cronenberg. Hello, yes, synthetic. I was just thinking that. I was like, no Cronenberg for these gals, especially.
I don't know. I have like maybe a love-hate relationship to it, because I like it. Yeah. But I'm also like grossed out by it and like afraid of it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to look away, because I'm like, no, I really want it. And also, I was talking to Andy about this recently. A few months ago, I was just kind of going through like a hard time mentally and emotionally. And I don't know, I just like couldn't shake myself out of it. And all I wanted to do was watch like the scariest thing in the house that he has.
Oh my
And
god.
what would you pick? What was
What
the
was
comfort?
it?
The comfort scary.
Yeah.
So I can't remember what I watched. It was probably Inside.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh.
even
No,
hard.
I was like, give me something so brutal. And
Yeah.
I'm not usually like Andy had on Martyrs one time.
Okay.
And at that time it was our old apartment. And so I had to kind of walk through the living room to get to the other rooms, which is where he was watching the movie. I literally saw 20 seconds of it and I had to leave the house. I was like, nope.
Can't even hear it. Don't want to be near it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know. I just wanted like the catharsis of it, I guess. So
Yeah.
maybe my tastes are changing. Who
Yeah.
knows?
No, it happens. I like put on Midsummer to go to sleep sometimes. I'm like, I just need something like sunshiny and chill and like
Yeah.
awful. And like, I'll go to bed and I love it.
Yeah.
Like, aw, thanks, Ari Aster, for giving me
Yes.
wonderful, sweet visions.
We love a midsummer
We
moment.
love a midsummer moment.
Yeah.
So you're both women and the folk horror women experts in particular. So what do you love about that subgenre?
Mm. Well,
That's a good
so
question.
many things.
Yes. I think I love the legends behind it, like the origin to stories. Like I really love when a director does all of the research and goes into like how a story might have been interpreted and how that's sort of evolved since its place of origin. Like I think it's just really neat to go back and again, because I love like those true, even though that's all not true, it just has that. It's the stories that we tell, that we make true, that we want to either evoke fear or evoke certain emotions. So I think like those types of stories have that energy in them.
Yeah. They're just like fairy tales, right? Like there's
Yeah.
always like a kernel of truth in a fairy tale. And it kind of like, it all kind of starts from the same seed. And for me, I think it's like I love folk horror because there's something about it that's like inherently feminist and inclusive. I'm not trying to say that it's not problematic. Like there are things about it that are, as with anything, but I think it's
You're
just
talking about all the witches that have been burned? I'm sorry.
Yes, burn the witch. No, yeah, there's something that's kind of like inherently other about folk horror, and that's so special because the horror genre is already about otherness. And so I love that of it. And similar to like what you're saying is like that research and those stories come from somewhere, and so it's it's about like a witch eating a baby, but what it's actually about is like, I don't know, the politics of that time, which are important and fascinating. And yeah.
So I know that you both took quite academic roots to horror. So can you talk us through from you start at Jaws, you start at Nightmare on Elm Street, and then like what's the path to get to What Sleeps Beneath?
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Your origin story for What Sleeps Beneath. That's what we want. We want that story.
We want you. Give us you.
I feel like my path, so from Jaws, kind of as I got a little bit older, saw films like The Grudge and The Ring and Cabin in the Woods and like things like that, and got really, really into zombies with the Walking Dead comics and then of course the Walking Dead show. And there was a period where like I kind of fell off of seeing movies and horror. Like when I was in college, I feel like I just got so overwhelmed with studies and work. I kind of like stepped away from it, or not like intentionally, but just kind of I lost time for movies and a lot of things. And whenever I graduated college, I was working, and that's where I actually met Andy and started talking about horror, and was slowly just getting myself reconnected again with the industry, and or not even just industry, but just film and going out and being a person again, not just like a student who's working herself to death and like has no.
Where did you go? What did you study?
I went to the University of Pittsburgh and I got a degree in creative nonfiction writing. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
There's a reason why she's our editor.
Yeah. But after that, like, we just decided to have this big movie watch party, and Andy and Theresa made these really beautiful screenplay books, which she can probably speak to. And
It was actually more of his idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. Similarly, I think.
Yeah.
So I always really liked just like the spookier things. Spoiler alert, I was a really weird kid. And
hello. You are with your people now.
Yeah. And so, and I actually started school at Columbia College in Chicago. I was studying audio engineering, and then I transferred to Pitt. Weirdly, we didn't know each other then.
Yeah,
but
even though we were there at the same time.
Yeah, but I was in the art department, the visual art department. And Andy and I started dating, and I was like, cool, I like horror movies. This guy says he likes horror movies. Like, fun, let's go see like some horror movies. I don't know what he finds from the depths of the realms.
Okay.
But I thought I liked horror. And then I met this guy and I was like, oh my God, like what? Oh my God. And I mean, he's an arsenophile. Yeah, he loves film of all kinds, but he loves horror. That's like his main thing. And so I really learned a lot from him, and it was just like something fun that we would do together. And then he met Destiny, and then he just like came home one day and was like, I think I'm gonna have a movie night, like this would be super fun. And we had already had conversations about like, this is why I love this movie, or like whatever. And so we just had like a bunch of friends over, and he was so cute. He printed out the screenplays we watched The Witch,
Killing of a Sacred Deer,
and
did we also watch How Goes This?
No, it's the one with the priest. I want to call it The Revenant, and I know that's not the right.
No.
First Reformed.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah,
Yes.
First Reformed.
The Ethan Hawke one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
He's so incredible
Love
in
him.
that.
Yeah. So we watched those three, and we just kind of like made like a movie marathon out of it just for fun. And then by the end of it, we were all having like these crazy conversations about like, what does this mean, and why is this like this? And we just needed an outlet, I think, to get it out.
Yeah.
And
we were like, we should do this all the time.
we'll just throw it up online and see what happens. Yeah.
And look at you now.
Yeah.
How long has the website been running for now?
In September, it'll be 5 years. So
Wow.
yeah, I had to go back and look. I was like, "Are you serious?"
Wow.
wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's a labor of love. We get it, you know, continuing on and doing that. That's so great. And I feel like it's similar birthing of us, you know, like we were just like friends. We love movies. We just kept wanting to talk about them. We're like, okay, other people, I guess, want to hear too. And here we go.
My
So
favorite part about it is like people who love horror, like it's a small community and everyone's really generous and really fun to hang out with, and just like it's obviously niche, but it's just so fun to
Why do you think the horror community is so welcoming?
Ooh. I feel like because we're all others. We're all just weird.
We're all weird.
We all have our own trauma. We all have our own thing, and we're all pretty accepting of that, and like finding, you know, talking about these really other horrific things just to kind of connect with people. And
the things they're hard to watch.
Yeah.
You know, and I think you have to be a certain type of person in your mind and in your spirit to be willing to like watch even a fictional character, right, like suffer on screen and like empathize with that and move through those emotions. And I think it's just really special. Like
cuts a little deeper for sure.
And it's fun. Horror is fun.
So what are some highlights, I guess, of some of the things you've done over the last 5 years, like some of your favorite things that you've covered or your favorite deep dives that you've gotten into? I'm very curious because I love a good deep dive, and I am obsessed with folk horror. So I want to know like what should I be looking at next, or what really was mind-blowing for you? I like these are thinkers. Y'all are thinkers.
207 Press.
Oh yeah,
that was huge for us. That was
Which
like
one?
a big milestone.
The conference, right?
Yeah, the conference.
We did a virtual conference with Gothic Horror and Room 207 Press.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was so great to be part of that. And we watched Hagazusa.
We lost you for a second.
We gotcha. We're here.
We're good. Okay.
A little like, but the spirits didn't want you to tell us about.
Yeah. Super mad.
Yeah, Hagazusa the Witch, and was there another one?
Yes, we also did. Oh my gosh, why can I think? Not the others.
Oh, The Village.
The Village.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was like,
I don't know
one
why.
that you like that I don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We like spoke about familiars and
Yeah, you did a ton of research on familiars.
Yes, you covered.
Tell me about them.
Yeah.
What do we know? What did you learn about familiars?
Please.
Please info dump on us. I want to hear about familiars. Very
Yes.
curious.
Yeah, so obviously familiars go back into like what creatures you could essentially turn into or have a strong connection with, whether they be cats, owls, I think even rats too.
Yeah, I think rats was one.
But yeah, this was so long ago, so I am trying to recollect. I feel like my brain is like, oh my gosh,
we can post it.
quiz time. Yeah, but we should
we'll
repost it.
Yeah.
But I just love the idea of that connectedness to something and being able to transform. And it's been so many years, but that was like the big draw for me. And I know that there was so much research I did about
There was
like blood it came
was,
down
like,
to the blood.
there was all these weird blood transfusions
yes.
that women were like accused of doing with basically their pets or like
Mhm.
animals that like lived in their little like their backyards, you know.
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was like one of the ways that they were accused of witchcraft,
Yeah.
right? And
Where
so
was this?
I think in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, we were doing
Yeah.
It was pretty wild.
Yeah.
I'll
Good old
definitely
New England
find
just giving you stuff, right? I mean, there's so much. I think it's a rich history. It's interesting you guys are there, like in that
Mhm.
Pittsburgh area. I feel like there's a lot of like
the
little
Appalachia.
fun things.
It's
Yeah.
like impossible to grow up here without having that be like a really big part of your life. Like whether or not you like it, it's just like we're in like the horror capital of the world. Like yeah.
Yeah, if it's not the folk horror, it's the zombies of Pittsburgh,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
So
We have like everything but Dracula. so,
Yeah.
Darn.
That's a great book title, Everything But Dracula.
But I know you're both very academic about your horror love, and on what seeps beneath you have your research library with everything meticulously cross-referenced and everything. So tell me about like you're looking at horror from an academic point of view.
I mean, I think that it's genuinely like one of, if not the most important kind of genre of film, especially. Honestly, like a runner-up would be romance. Yeah, I think those two are kind of like the top ones. I'm not as familiar with romance, but you know, horror, if you want to know anything about a time or a place, all you got to do is look at what those people are afraid of. And it will tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
And I think that's just so fascinating. I also studied cultural anthropology in college. And so I'm always kind of looking at those ties of like, what are the economic kind of pools of this time and place? Or like, you know, what is it reflecting about the health of that society or those types of things? And so for me, like horror is just like a really rich text because it's so straightforward. It's so open. It like you can tell a really fun, great, scary story, or you can tell something that's very deep and connected and has lots of through lines and like all these different pathways to look at. But you know, the best horror films, you can't separate those two. And that's why they're classics. And yeah, I love it. I think it's such an interesting thing to study because there's so much there. We're never going to be done with it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It keeps giving.
Yeah. Like
What
love it.
Mhm.
Like all the Eat the Rich stories.
Oh my
like
God,
yeah. There's so much we could go into.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean this is the time to deep dive into it if you want to get down in there, because I feel like there's so many subgenres within the horror. That's what makes it fascinating. You can talk about gothic, you can talk about folk, you can talk about gore, body horror, whatever, and they're all this within the same blanket banner, but just completely different kinds of cinema.
Yeah. I mean, one, two, kind of going back to like your earlier question, what scared me recently is Skinamarink. So
Really?
scary to me. Yeah. So
Okay,
scary.
tell me more. I'm very fascinated because that's like a very divisive film,
Yeah.
Yeah,
obviously.
I haven't seen it yet, so I don't.
You
I
guys-
don't
I
know.
haven't seen it yet.
I saw it.
Did you like it?
No.
No.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, it's divisive. So I guess first and foremost,
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking? I'm very curious because I feel like there's a certain demographic and age that this movie hit. Is that weird?
Yeah, it's on a
There
school
might-
age. It's on a
there might
school age
be.
age.
I don't
Yeah.
have. You don't have to tell me.
Well, we both have birthdays very soon.
Mhm. Leos.
Yeah. I'll be 33 in August.
Okay,
And
I'll be 31 at the end of July.
yeah.
babies,
Yeah.
children,
Yeah.
children. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm just curious because I feel like I watched it with some folks who were about your age who loved it, and I was like, so I don't know if it's just something depending on sometimes it's stuff hits like I don't know
Yeah, that's
demographic
interesting.
or
Maybe it is.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm really easy to watch movies with because you could put the worst movie ever on screen and I'm like, I believe it. It's so, oh my God. Like I just immediately accept what is I'm like, yep, this is the reality.
circumstances done.
Immediately
Yeah.
suspend my disbelief. And so for something that was that atmospheric where you really had to like strain to even tell what was going on, and then like the slow kind of reveals of things, and obviously I'm a big sound person. I'm a musician and I was studying audio engineering, so the sound in that is like really particular. So I think I just like let myself be totally immersed in it, and I found it to be terrifying because it never, like, so much about horror is the unknown or the other, and that never, you never get closure. You never
No.
really know. You're just in that horrible, nasty other space for 2 hours, and then whenever the lights come up, you're still in it because they never gave you anything. And I love that. Like, I love something that doesn't give me an answer. But
So do you, as someone who listens to movies differently, since you are someone who's a musician and audio engineer, does horror work better for you because of the sound design in a lot of movies?
sometimes it's worse. I feel like a lot of times actually it's like way overkill, and it's really hard to get away from the psycho sound, even like just like remnants of it, like the stabbing sound from Psycho is like, whether or not they're trying, it's like infiltrated every single horror movie, because it's perfect. But I think it can really make or break a film. I mean, I've seen some films that I thought were great that are just like their sound is horrible, and that I personally I can't like turn away from that.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm not a fun person to watch movies with. I don't know, but
You are.
No, you are.
You are. You are.
oh my God.
But here's the question: if you're a musician who loves horror, do you love horror musicals?
No. Not even
No,
like
you don't.
Her face.
Oh, okay. Tell us, what do you not like about it?
Oh, I'm gonna get so much.
Mhm.
It's all right. We just
I like the stories. I hate musicals.
what about, is it just because it's so artificial? Is that what bothers you about it?
I think so. I think it's, maybe somebody can give me a good recommendation, but it always feels like the singing is out of nowhere and it like jolts me out of the story. And I don't like that.
You don't sing in your regular life as you're living your day. You don't sing as you're hanging out with your friends.
I sing
She
like
doesn't have the kind of ADHD like I have. You gotta sing.
maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
This is
I'm not like a diehard
This is
for
just
the
like
musicals.
a roasting session. It's like she's never seen Jaws. She doesn't
No.
like.
I love you. I love you. And this is true love.
No.
We'll give you some recommendations. Don't worry, because that's one of our favorite subgenres. Don't worry, we got
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Destiny, how are you on horror musicals? I just need to know as well, just to make sure we can give you a good recommendation.
I like them. I feel like I haven't seen a ton of them, but like Sweeney Todd was one of my favorite movies for a while. Like we talked about the red blood earlier. I love just the scenes in that movie, the darkness, like anything.
The costumes in that movie are so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
The costumes are great. Like I actually like the songs in that as well. And I thought that they did work really well with the storyline. Like it doesn't pluck you because it is more of they are singing about what's happening.
Right, it's
like it's
integrated.
very,
I'm
Integrated.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I do. I mean, that one I'm okay with. I think we have that one.
Okay.
So
Good.
I'm like, I'm fine with Sweeney Todd, but I'm like,
All right.
Oh.
You're redeemed. Well, let it slide.
Gonna get fired.
No.
For a moment. It's okay.
Never.
It's okay. You have time to redeem yourself. Tell us more then maybe about something like one of the films that you do love, like within the folk horror. What's something that surprised you that you really, really love besides, I know we just talked about Skinamarink, but anything else that's in the folk genre that you would recommend for us?
To watch? I know that Blair Witch is categorized as found footage, but I see it as a folk horror film.
Yeah, it's a witch involved.
Yep.
Yeah. That, I mean, that's obviously one of the best of the best.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorites too.
It's so good. It's still so scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what
I know. Like we already talked about Midsommar, but I loved that film and could watch it over and over. The Witch.
The Witch is perfect.
The Witch is perfect, like night and day, just both of them together, honestly, even though they're different. I love both of those as well.
Arguably both witches.
Yeah.
Yes. Main girls.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I got a hard question for you.
Oh.
If you met somebody who had never seen a horror movie before and they were like, give me a recommendation, how do I start? What is the one film that you would recommend?
That was a tough one. Oh my
It's
gosh.
I love it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I was like, I love Julia's like queen of questions. Like I have to like say this full caveat. Like she's amazing. I'm obsessed with you, Julia, forever. But we'll get together even for like birthdays.
Can
And
we
she'll
have
have like
your
a stack of
answers
questions and we'll
first?
like dig in. What was that?
Can we have your answers first?
Oh, well, I mean, so I've been a big horror nerd since I was younger. And when I met Teri, she had basically not seen a horror movie before. And I showed her how
Seen some, like too young, like you.
too young. But, like as an adult, had never seen one to like watch one. So Hellraiser is what we watched for the first time.
Oh,
okay.
That's a good one.
And Uncle Frank sucked her right in and she was into it. And then
Just thought he
here we
was
are.
really sexy, and then they had the Jesus weapon. I laughed out loud, like it was just really funny to me, and I just thought it was brilliant. And I was like, oh, this is great. Let's do more. And so we just kept going, and then Julia just kept me going on a beautiful path. And I did see Blair Witch in the theater when it came out, like at the New Art like opening weekend, which was crazy to see that back in the day. You know, so
back when it was real.
Yeah.
I was like, because we didn't know, like the internet was like negligible, so like we didn't know, like I was like, what the heck, like these people were camping, like what the fuck, I'm never going camping again. Like it was like
I'm not going camping again anyway. Too many
I
horror
feel like
movies.
even having the internet, like when I saw that movie, I still looked it up and was trying to like find stuff out. And it was even just the old marketing that they'd had.
That was perfect.
Yeah, it was like, no, this is real. And my neighbor was telling me, who's like 4 years older than me, I was probably like 11 or 12 when I saw it, and I'm like, it's real? Like, what do you mean? Like,
it was terrifying. I remember like literally telling my friends like beat for beat coming home being like, I saw this movie, and like it's really scary.
I feel like if someone would ask for a recommendation for me, what I generally try to gauge their interest as far as like, do you start them out with something comedy horror? Do we start with a Fright Night? We start off easy, right?
Shaun of the Dead.
Like dip your toes in, and then you get deeper into the more hardcore horror. Or do they want to go straight to Texas Chainsaw? Because some people do. So you just go, okay.
Should have started there.
Chainsaw is the
Those
scariest
are
one,
Texas Chainsaw.
but Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite.
Yeah. What's that?
I said Texas Chainsaw is the scariest I've seen, but Nightmare on Elm Street's my favorite.
Oh,
What did
yeah.
you say?
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw is like perfect.
Yeah.
Like, the original is like a perfect horror film.
or Evil Dead.
Oh, love Evil
That
Dead.
one's a really good one. But if I started someone on horror, I honestly might have them watch Pet Sematary.
Oh,
Just
nice.
Because, like, I don't know, I feel like there's so many different elements to it. Like,
Also
there is
scary.
some body horror. It is very scary.
Yeah.
You have the Wendigo, essentially.
Mhm.
Like, there's a little bit of folk horror there. Like, it's a really good mix, and it's an adaptation of a novel, which I can
Yeah.
always appreciate. So,
Oh, maybe or Carrie.
oh,
Carrie's a good
that would be really good.
Also another one I saw way too young, but
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with Stephen King. This is
Yeah.
my motto.
Yes.
I'm wearing a Stephen King
Mhm.
shirt and a Stephen King necklace right now, so I'm like, maybe I kind of.
perfect.
Perfect. I couldn't even see it.
Over
'cause
here
look
on
where
the
you're-
Stephen
Yeah.
Mine's the dark. It's a Dark Tower T-shirt. It says "Never a dull moment in Memphis." And I have my
Nice.
collar around my neck.
That's so great.
Love it.
There's like not a day that you're not wearing a Stephen King, I think, around your neck of some sort.
I know.
Which I love. And Carrie, I think, is beautiful. I just watched that again last month. I love that movie. It's so beautiful. I was watching some De Palma deep dive thing on the internet, and I was like, I gotta watch this again. Just knowing how many days they took to do that scene, and like how the studio was like, no, don't, you're spending too much money. It's like, you want to let me film this thing or let me film this thing? And so,
yeah,
just gorgeous. Yeah. So I want to know a little bit more. I think just I don't know about like your process or how you like go about like creating stuff, or how do you look for what you're going to cover next? How do you program the things that you're going to write about?
That's a work in progress always. Yeah.
A lot of times it's like one of us like will watch or read something, and then we'll throw it in our group chat and just be like, what if I did something like this? And then the other two will kind of be like, oh yeah, that's great, or like, what reminds me of this other thing that you wrote, or like just kind of try to bounce ideas off of each other that way.
Yeah. I think the other side to that too is like when certain releases are coming out or things that we're excited about. Like we just did an entire Ty West month because we're gearing up to do a review on Maxine, and just like, so just totally covered that. It doesn't always work out perfectly, but we definitely strive to at least have some kind of theme focus or chase what is interesting to us at that time. Like I think that's been really cool, how no matter what, like no one's ever had a bad idea, like, oh, you want to go down this path and explore this. Like usually Andy or you will have recommendations or vice versa. Like we're always just trying to like fuel that exploration. Like there's never a bad never a bad idea. But
yeah, and then a lot of times like we'll have like you'll have an idea and then I'll be like, oh, I was thinking of that too. And so we'll write a collaborative post, or we'll write like a list of like, we'll each have something. But we have a pretty rigorous editing process too. So like we have a draft.
Do you read each other's works? How does that work?
Yeah. So, we try to post something new every weekend. And so typically what we do is like, if it's Destiny's week, she'll try to have a first rough draft ready by like Tuesday or Wednesday. And then we throw it in our folder, and then at least one other person, but preferably both of us, if we can, like puts in our edits and our comments. And Destiny's always fixing my grammar because it's really bad.
No, you do great.
But it's a mix of like copy editing. It's a mix of copy editing, but also content. So if there's something that's like confusing, or if there's something that's like, oh, this is really great, like I think you should add more, or like I would say it's pretty rigorous.
Yeah, like can you go more into depth about this?
And then we just like have a little bit of extra time for whoever wrote the article to make those edits, or however they want to approach that. And then at that point, it kind of goes into my folder, and then I find images, and then I kind of make it public facing. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
How would you, what advice would you give to somebody who had friends who were in the horror scene, taking it to the next level of turning it into something that begets more art and creativity?
Like more exposure for their piece, or just
you were just buddies hanging out watching a movie, and now you have a website where you write these
for 5 years.
For 5 years. So like what's your recommendation to someone who want to follow your footsteps?
I think the biggest thing is to just start doing it. Honestly, like I feel like so many times we talk ourselves out of the things we think we can't do or will never be able to do. And honestly, just taking that time and putting your thoughts out onto a page, or putting them into a piece of art, or however you want to express it, like just take that jump, like take the leap and see where it takes you, because you honestly don't know. Like I never would have thought we would be where we are right now.
Oh my gosh, never. No, never ever.
And it's been a labor of love. Like there's been so many great things that happen, and I'm just glad that we all got together and we're like, no, like we talked about this, but let's
actually do it.
Yeah, let's actually do it and put some meat behind it and like see what happens.
I think the other thing too is like just try to stay flexible, like because it's hard to tell from the outside, aside from the fact that we've like changed our logo a little bit and stuff like that. But there's definitely been growing pains and like things that we've had to change or move, or we're like, okay, like we actually don't really feel like doing this part of it anymore. Like let's focus on something else. And so I think like being consistent with what you're trying to do, like how we've always posted once a week ever since we started. And so I think that really helped us have like a backlog and like just like maintain momentum. And then just like when we need to be flexible or pivot or whatever, then we do.
We figure it out.
Is there anything that you would go back and do differently from the beginning, knowing what you know now?
That's a really good question too.
That's a great question. I think for me, it would be doing more community stuff, like chatting with you guys and like making more friends in the horror world, because I don't know that many like horror lovers personally, and like that always just fills me up so much. Like when we're out and we see people, and like when we go to the night markets and stuff, I'm like, oh my god, these are my people. And like I think it took me a little bit longer to kind of like dip my toe into that. And
I do feel like we had like Stockholm syndrome or something for
bit,
a while. Like it was like, okay, we're just doing this.
We're gonna sit in our basement, watch movies by ourselves.
We get it. Like, and then we had a whole ass like pandemic, like slapdash in the middle of that, which made it even harder. But also, I think we had a similar thing coming out. We're like, oh, we're getting invited to things. Like we can be out with people. So I think we get that too. Like we're like, oh yeah, we could have probably done that earlier, but also here we are now.
And also women in horror, supporting women in horror is part of the fun, right? Like the horror community is one thing. I think women in horror is a even tighter knit kind of community.
Is the best thing.
Yes. Yeah. The best.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you have been in Pittsburgh for many years. So George Romero must have had an impact on your life. So tell us about when you started watching his movies and like how has he changed who you are?
Ooh, yes. So like I kind of talked about earlier, I feel I more so started with the Walking Dead comics and got into the Walking Dead show. I mean, obviously I was not alive when a lot of George's movies came out. So it was a lot of working backwards for me, like going back again, like finding those origin stories. Where was the zombie created? Like who came up with this? And just being fascinated with the transition of like those original like gray makeups and the red blood to like what we saw now that was more a realistic showing of like decomposition and like the science of that. So I got really into that for a long time and just thought I was just fascinated by like the special effects of it and the growth of it. It wasn't until like recently that I actually saw more of George's films, like The Crazies and Amusement Park, which I was just like, that one has been, I think it might be my favorite, just because of like, it's so sad. Like there's funny parts to it, but it's so sad and twisted. And like, it is such a real representation of how our elderly are treated, at least in America. And when I saw it, I actually saw it in West Hub in Pittsburgh, which is right near the location of the Westview Park, which is where
where it all takes place.
Yeah. So like, obviously it's not there anymore, but just being in that place and like, it was like a whole event. So they had things from the film, they had different props there, and it just immersed me so much more. And I feel like I take that with me now, like more conscious of the things I do or say, and just, I don't know, I don't have words now, but
that one lives with you like that. I get it. I think that happened to us when we saw it. We were like, holy crap, like this movie.
Because it's really not a topic that gets talked about a lot, ageism. And I feel like that one hits so hard because George, when he hits straight on the money. But it's also, the end of that movie is him looking in the camera and saying, one day this will be you, right? This is everybody who's watching.
Maybe, hopefully, you know what I mean? Though, like if God, like God willing, like we get, we make it that far, but it's just like, just thinking about it now too, specifically, it's like, I was watching some news thing about Italy like last week too, you know, where it's like their aging population, it's like insane. Like they had like no kids the last 6 months kind of thing. Like it's like they're not having babies. So it's just like the population of people aging is so high, and the way we treat them is just, you know, not great.
But that's it's a positive impact for this movie to have on you right now. And now you're going to go forward. You're going to be more mindful of how you act. And I feel like that's not a filmmaker can ask for nothing more.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, totally.
So Theresa, what about you? How's George affected your life?
So I think kind of similarly, like I didn't see any Romero films really until probably like high school, college. So probably college. And then kind of like, you know, worked my way backwards. But I think it's really hard to live in Pittsburgh at all without knowing him or feeling that, or like, you know, knowing of him, and just like it's just so entrenched in the best way in the city, which is really exciting. But yeah, I mean, he's just brilliant. Like the films are perfect. And I feel like every time I watch them, I find something different or new, or, you know, like they're so perfect because they're like like the perfect template for a story. But then there's all these other like layers in for, you know, you can just watch it as like a fun zombie film, like any of them, or you can see all the things about war and humanity and masculinity and like, you know, consumerism and like isolation and like transportation. Like there's literally so many things about it that I watched Night of the Living Dead today actually, and I was like, the cinematography of it is perfect, like literally perfect. I mean, you're so far into the story before they even set up that television, because, you know, they're trying to find communication, and whenever you're watching the television, it's the entire screen. So suddenly we're like in the house with these zombies outside, like as viewers, you're in the house with these people, and then like all of a sudden, like you are the viewer and you are watching the TV, and it's not a movie anymore. It's the TV in your living room that's like happening outside of your door. And it's just like, it doesn't matter that it's in black and white. It doesn't matter how old it is. Like it's just literally a perfect film. And
the ending is a gut punch every time.
Oh my God. Oh
yeah.
It's brutal. Yeah. Yeah. So I find his storytelling just like really captivating. And I think that it's so great because it's not like overcomplicated. And that's a really hard thing to do. Like even in my own writing, like I write a lot of sentences that are like way too long or like overcomplicated. And I'm always like fighting to kind of simplify that. And yeah, it's just, I feel like he's just infected the city in the best way, you know,
like infecting it like a zombie virus. That's how he does it.
Yeah.
That's great.
So ladies, please give us your plugs, give us where they can find you online and where we should be looking for your work.
Yes. So obviously whatsleepsbeneath.com is where you can find our blog, our archive. We have local events on there as well. Our social media handles are at whatsleepsbeneath. I believe that they are the same on Twitter and Instagram. So
you'll find us.
Yeah, you'll find us. We at least have those links on our webpage. So if I got them wrong in any way,
no, I'll find it.
Yeah.
And what's your personal Instagram?
Oh, personal Instagram is at Miss Destiny K.
And mine is at Between Velvet Sheets.
Ooh.
It's kind of a nasty place to be. So.
Like depends on who you're talking to. Some people are like sensory overload. I love it. Amazing. This has been so delightful. Y'all are so fun, and I just love how excited you are and like how much you love horror, because it makes my little heart just go like just beautiful.
We love it.
Very, very cool. And I'm glad you got into the comics. I love just hearing that origin story, because I'm always fascinated by that, and like, you know, how people come to things. It's cool, right? Like we all have a different entry point, but it's like we're all here just enjoying it. And I love that, and getting to share. And and Theresa, your Mama's Boy shirt, into this. Just have to like,
This is actually our merch.
Yes.
So if y'all want one,
yes,
I made it.
Obsessed.
You made that.
Yeah, I made the design, and you can just get them on TeePublic.
That's hilarious because that's Julia's downfall is that boy specifically.
Tell me about it, right?
Cute boy killer, man.
Cute boy killer, the Norman Bates of the world, get me every time.
Same.
I love
get
him
you.
too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Look at us, we're all doomed. We are all doomed. Right?
Oh yeah.
Hi guys.
I'm like, oh my god, you want to like murder me? Okay,
Let's go.
Absolutely delightful. Oh my gosh. And then so this other one too, What Sleeps Beneath, is this one of your other ones too?
Yes.
Yes.
It's like hard to see, but it is the Amityville Horror House.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. We have links on it on our website and on our Instagram link tree. And then Andy wrote a great piece about the amusement park. So we can link that too for people to read. And we have a couple like really deep dives where you did one on Radium Girls. You did pretty deep dive into that one as a book review.
Yeah.
I did a deep dive on like the economy of the exorcism of Emily Rose. Yeah. And
there's some good nuggets in there.
Yeah. And Andy has one about the Transfiguration. That's like a 4-part series. So there's lots of good stuff. So I hope you guys like check it out and leave us comments because we always
curiosity.
Yeah, we always love talking to people about that. So
yeah, and anybody that's watching too, we're always accepting pitches like guest contributors. We don't pay yet. We want to eventually. So, you know, we're getting there. Maybe in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We understand that too.
Labor of love. Labor of love.
Because we love it. That's for dang sure. Well, so happy to have you, and so happy to have some lovely Pittsburghian, folks like hop on, and we're always so excited to connect, George back with whatever we're doing, and just like he's been such an influence on all of our lives too. So thank you again so much. Y'all are so fantastic. We really appreciate you joining us today. And we'll give a little plug here. You can listen to our podcast, Horror Movie Survival Guide, anywhere y'all listen to podcasts. You can hear us talk, also doing deep dives quite often into different horror films every week. We've been running, this is our 7-year anniversary coming up this next week, which is crazy for us too. So thank you. So we understand every week having something come out is definitely a labor of love and a lot of work, but very proud of that. And Julia, can you tell them about your other podcast, please?
Yes, I also have a podcast called Jodorowsky, all about Alejandro Jodorowsky and all of his work as a filmmaker and a comics creator. And also I'm a member of the Losers Club, the Stephen King podcast. You can hear me talk about Stephen King. So please do check out the George A. Romero Foundation, which is dedicated to restoring Romero's work, including seldom seen pieces, and from
like the amusement
park, as well as keeping an archive and helping the next generation of young filmmakers, myself included. So
yes. Julia's got a movie that's going to be playing, oh my god, at Comic-Con. She did a Stephen King short that
the George Romero Foundation helped me make. So
I know what you need. Yeah, they knew what you needed, Julia.
Yes.
So very cool stuff. It's been playing. It played at Salem Horror, and it's playing at Comic-Con. I'm so excited. So thank you everyone for watching. All of our favorites out here. We appreciate you and everyone who's catching this later, because I know that's going to be the most of you. So please do feel free to reach out to us. We're on the internet, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as well, at Horror Movie Survival Guide. At a lot of it, or We Are Into Survival. You'll find us on the internet. I know you will if you're already here. And we'll see you next time. Yeah.
Thank you for watching, and I'm hoping your days and nights are fantastic oracle.
Thank you. Thank you.